Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League. Here today, alongside me in the commentary booth, as you're used to from Early Access, is Tim Ireland. And we are finally back here live on Twitch.
Yeah, we had a bit of a rocky start, but we're here casting finally, and we're on the Nordschleife in GT3s. It's a classic combo. Everyone loves it.
Indeed it is, and we are very pleased to be able to broadcast again. We have not seen this in quite a while. I mean, the last season of the Nordschleife League, it ended, I think, in August. And yeah, we have some fresh faces, we have some, well, known drivers in here, so it could be very interesting. Usually ended up being very interesting when new drivers joined the grid. But yeah, I mean, lots of stuff happened in the meantime, right?
Just a few things. Yeah, we had a slight event happen in we kind of launched.
Indeed, we did. And yeah, it brought some new features, some new cars, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's very nice to have all of that in here now. I'm sure we'll see some of these new cars as well over the season. But today we start with a classic round of GT3s. This man we're currently watching in the AMG, that is Alizar here. But let's go to, I think, the defending champion, if my memory serves you right, Dominic Ladler, in a different colored Porsche.
Yeah, he seems to have swapped his Porsche. I don't know why, but he has. So we've got to get used to seeing a different Porsche for Dominic Ladler. But same, different colour, same driver. He seems to be keeping it nice and clean as he drives around the Nordschleife here doing his qualifying lap.
I mean, he sure knows how to get a Porsche through the green hair. But yeah, it's nice to see some colors. It may be a bit of an homage to another driver. Who knows? But whatever the case is, it's just very nice to see all these people back again. And I think what will be very interesting in this session, of course the cars have changed a tiny bit. There's some differences in the setup. We are running a custom BOP around here. And generally I think it will be very interesting to see how the people adapt to the changes. Drew and Chico, same colors, very, very different car. Seems like Tim is having some connection issues in the meantime.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It happens, I guess. And my microphone should be also fixed now. All the quick fixes here on the RENNSPORT live stream. As, of course, shown in the previous season, or as some of you might be used to from previous seasons, qualifying also does give some points. Generally, maybe you want to have a bit of a rundown about what this season has. There is the schedule. The GT3 race today kicks things off, fixed setups, that's why it's an amateur race. Then we have the BMW M2 making a comeback. This time also some fancy new liveries. And after that, back to the GT3X. I'm not sure if you... I think the last GT3X race you were not there, right?
Yeah, I think I missed that one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see the GT3X Nord. It's always a good time. It's a fun car to drive. It's a fun car to watch. And we've got a couple of liveries for that. So again, not always the same car, yes.
We are in for the livery game. But yeah, indeed, it's very cool car for the track. It has a lot of downforce, a lot of power, and makes good use of that around the 25.7 kilometers of the Nordschleife. Then we go to GT4, which always have been a blast. I think the GT4 races are some of my favorites. A lot of tactical plays, a lot of interesting choices, very audacious moves, and generally just a lot of chaos up and down the grid, but a pleasure to commentate on that. Always appreciate when a lot of stuff happens. Before we then go back to GT3s for the final race at the start of the next year, or at the end of the month of the start of next year, which then will be open setup as well.
And a little bit longer.
And a little bit longer. But we will get to that in a couple of months. Right now, all that counts is what the drivers do here on track. This is Enrico Bräuninger, now already known as Shigo, on the leaderboard, because the names have been shortened a bit, and as some of you may remember, he likes to have a very long name that usually spans from the A pillar down to the C pillar, but that is not possible for him anymore. In the BMW, covered some of the drivers before. Luciano Ikazu in the Aston Martin Vantage. Maybe a familiar name to some. He's been very strong in some of our races that have been a bit bigger, like the Florida Beach 500. He hasn't been part of the regular circle in, for example, the Community League or here at the Nordschleife, but he has shown his pace in more esport-orientated competitions. So I'm looking forward a lot to see what he can do around here. If I see that correctly, it's the only Aston Martin we have here today.
Yeah, we've got a fairly big Porsche bias in the field, I'd say. There seems to be a lot of Porsches going on. Seem to be completely lacking any of the new cars as well. People going with the old favourites here. We've got a few BMWs, quite a few Porsches, an Aston Martin, a couple of Mercedes. No McLarens, no Mustangs, no Audis.
I can kind of understand that though, because the Nordschleife is a track where you really need to know your car.
That's true.
It's one of the other AMGs driven by Abel. Now down the Döttinger Höhe. Our car is reaching about 250 kph.
And of course, one of the fairly big new things, especially to our broadcast, will be console players. We have some console players in this race.
Yeah, and so far, if you've joined the multiplayer, the console players are pretty fast. Alizar putting down a first lap time in 8:13. We will see how strong of a benchmark that is. Julian Chico second across the line in 8:19. Then it's Abel. Enrico Bräuninger going fastest by half a second. Abel probably at 8:32. Cesco Monreal just slightly behind. Dominic Ladler in third. It's not a bad start to the season, I think. What can Luciano Ikazu do? It's P7 for him on the grid with an 8:25. Some drivers still coming in to finish their lap. Dennis Kotzer doesn't seem to have a particularly good wave around, but let's see where he finishes. Could be enough for 10th. Yes, it is. So we have Kimi Harpala, who also put his lap in, on pole position alongside Shrigo, or also known Enrico Bräuninger. That is an interesting start, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a massive gap between the top two. There's only 0.87 seconds between P1 and P2, then a half a second gap back to Ali Zahir. So it's a nice tight grouping there. Dominic Ladler, maybe not his best lap, dropping 3 seconds from Ali Zahir.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen before in other races is that qualifying is one part of it, definitely, but what's more important is really the long run in the race. So we will see about
for sure.
that.
it's a long race. Well, it's not a long race. It's a sprint race by GT standards, but it's a lot of corners. It's a big track. There's a long way to go. Qualifying isn't where you win it, especially at the Nordschleife, I think.
Yeah, it really is. Before we start the race in just a bit, the driver's getting ready. Here's a quick overview. Most races, as said, on the Pro difficulty, meaning open setup and assist of this one. A bit of an outlier in that. No fuel consumption, but damage enabled, so you gotta keep your car in one shape. There are bonus points for finishing the race. There is a bonus for qualifying on pole position P2 and P3, so those went to Kimi Hapla, Shrigo and Alizaya. In the points format, you can see on the left. If you have questions for it, you can always check out the Discord and read that if you got some time or some interest in that. If you want to join the league yourself, the next race will be in 2 weeks on RENNSPORT, but also the information about that can be found in the Discord. And here we go with 14 cars. We have 3 splits as well, so there are more points being calculated after this race. This one is the top split. On the front row, Kimi Hapla and Enrico Bräuninger. 60 kph until the lights go green. And we go racing here in the green hell at the Nordschleife. Kimi Hapla, good off the line, but Enrico Bräuninger really using the power of the BMW going down Schumann. It's 4 wide behind them. Dominik Ladler, that's Julian Chicot. Down the inside, I'm not sure who on the BMW that is, but we still go 3 wide. Oh, and there's contact. Dominik Ladler round, Julian Chicot nearly going round. Big winner of all of this is Luciano Ikazu, who's already up into 5th position. Lots of cars going into one tight space, isn't it?
It is. It's a bit chaotic traffic there, but everyone seems to have got away not too badly, given everything that just happened.
Enrico Bräuninger trying to go the long way around Kimi Hapla, but the Porsche just very strong on the acceleration out of the hairpin. Bit of a train forming here on the Grand Prix circuit. Oh, and big drift for Dominik Ladler going through the Schumachers and somehow saves it. I think I've never seen a car with this much of an angle going through the Schumacher S and not spinning out.
Well, that was a pretty good bit of car control there by Ladler. There was a lot of opposite lock going on, but he seems to have kept it under control. Hopefully not done his tyres in too much.
Enrico Bräuninger with the brave move through the Vedol chicane to go into the lead of the race. Julian Chicot still holding off Alizaya, who's having himself to look in the mirror for Luciano Ikazu. Let's go on board here with the Argentinian drivers. But what a start. It was just the Grand Prix circuit, ladies and gentlemen. We still have the hard part left to do. These are high on the curbing, trying to hunt down Julian Chicot, somebody who's been very strong here on the Nordschleife previously. It seems like Kimi Hapla is having a bit of an issue there. Came to a hold on the side of the track. Theodor Popa, I think he was very far down the grid on the start in the Kraken BMW. It's a very special livery. Already up into P5.
Our highest placed console driver as well at the minute is Popa. So he's flying the PlayStation flag in 5th position.
got Eduardo Armengol behind him. I think that was the BMW involved with a bit of contact at the start, but going 4 wide into the Yokohama S, I think you're kinda asking for some trouble.
Yeah, it's a lot of cars into not a lot of space, and they all want the same bit of track, so it's not always a thing that ends well, for sure.
Dominic Lalla has found the end of the train, but everybody pretty pacey at the moment, so it won't be easy to get by them. Of course, we now get towards Kesselchen, which is a bit of a better spot to overtake, but we gotta have some patience here on the Nordschleife, and we know that Dominic Lalla usually has the patience as well.
Rico Breininger currently 2.5 seconds clear at the front of the field, which is a pretty decent lead. He's stretched out over Julian Sakura very early on. And then quite a tight pack of Ali Zahir, Luciano Acaso, and Tito Popper. They're all about a second apart, but they're kind of staying in contention with each other.
We're trying to get the overlay to do what it should, but yeah, we will get through anyway. Luciano Caso. BMW in the mirror is getting a bit bigger, so Theodor Popper definitely on a very good pace here going into the Kesselchen section. Oh, and lots of action going on further back. On board with Dominic Lalla. He has 4 cars just ahead of him. Decides to back out of it for now.
Yeah, it's a lot of traffic for him to try and get through right now, and they're all fighting with each other, so he probably doesn't want to get too involved with that, but he also doesn't want to let anyone else get too far ahead.
Yeah, it's a bit of a give and take, of course, around here.
It's a lot of Porsches as well.
Theodor Popper also moved by Luciano Caso, so now the BMW up into P4. Back to the fight for P8 around here. Leon Becker on P9 in front of him. That's Michael Herrmann on P8. Oh, and Dominic Ladler going wide into the Hohe 8 section, and that's big damage to the front right of the car.
Yeah, that's not what he wanted to be happening at this early point in the race, trying to overtake some lap traffic. Well, not lap traffic, some traffic ahead of him.
Fight is still going on. Almost pushing them through Wippermann.
Yeah, it must be a difficult choice here about whether you just let them through or you carry on fighting. It's whether or not you think you've got the kind of pace later on in the race, which is still 53 minutes to go, so there's a lot of blocking to be done.
Enrico Breininger out front. He doesn't care about any of this. He's 4 seconds in the lead to the nearest car, which is this pair, Julian Chicot and Ali Zahir. Well, maybe with the slipstream. Bit of a weaver by Julian Chicot.
Yeah, we're trying to break the slip a little bit. You can see Enrico Breininger off in the distance. Not too far away, but he's starting to get a pretty respectable gap.
Let's take a look at the fight for P8, the 2 Porsches side by side. Seems like Cesco Monera dropped out of this fight. And Abel trying to seek his chance. The two Porsches go side by side, 2 wheels into the grass for Michael Herrmann. Bell backing out of it.
Because Kevin Esther did it doesn't mean you've got to.
And no Hail Mary moves down into turn 1. Dominic Ladler.
Dominic Ladler going into the pits.
As to be expected. Cesco staying out, as is Marcel Vollbracht.
Michael Herrmann also in the pits.
We will be right back with the footage. But yeah, going after this first lap, definitely a lot more aggression than you might have anticipated going into the race before, right?
Yeah, for sure. We've watched quite a few races around Nordschleife here. This is our 4th season of RNL already, so it's normally been pretty sedate on the first lap, I'd say, but a lot of fairly aggressive moves going on there. There's a lot of tightly packed drivers trying to fight for every inch of track. Maybe, arguably, use their brains a little bit and don't do that on the first lap of a 60-minute race, but race drivers do be race drivers, whether they're virtual or real life.
Yeah, and one big surprise for me at least is the pace of Enrico Bräuninger. I mean, of course, unfortunate for Kimi Hapler to not be further part in this battle, but he's had a very strong pace from the start. And yeah, I mean, he's just continuing to soldier on up front.
Yeah, he's set a pretty good first lap there with an 8:20.8, which is not bad from a rolling start. So a good benchmark. We'll get a better idea when they come round again to do the first flying laps. But Alizar here right on the back end of Julian Secure as they work their way around, but they're probably a little bit mindful that they don't want Enrico Bräuninger to get even further ahead than he is.
And also the fight for P4 and 5. Those are both drivers we haven't seen in RNL before, and they're having a pretty good fight here. Luciano Icaza and Theodor Popper coming through the Michael Schumacher S.
Yeah, Popper made a little bit of a mistake coming onto the Nordschleife proper, and that let Icaza come through. Yeah, I've just looked at your screen and thought, you're not on the Nordschleife proper. I shouldn't have said that. Pretend I didn't say that.
Right now, you know.
Nothing's going to happen in the next 30 seconds. I will rewind slightly.
Yeah, for us, of course, it's also been a long time since we last casted, so you have to get big into the rhythm of things. But that's Luciano Icaza.
I was behind you before, in my defense.
Luciano Icaza back into P4. Is Dominic Ladler out of the pits again? Yes, he just came out of it. But yeah, out front, nobody in his way. 4 seconds to lead over Julian Chicot. That is Enrico Bräuninger. The fight for P4 is still far from done, because Theodor Popper still not too far behind there as Martin, and the part where the BMW really becomes strong is just ahead of us, so if he can hang on here through Foxhole and, I don't know, Force, there is still a very good chance for Tedder Popa to essentially get by Luciano Caso again. Same goes for Alizar, because the AMG is that slightly bit better on the twisty sections than the BMW, but of course the BMW very strong on the uphill, through Kesselchen, lots of power.
Plus, there's the slightly psychological fact of having the AMG behind you, because it does sound like a monster chasing you.
Yes, that may also be a thing.
Or is that just me?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Especially if you say I've got a smaller, although turbocharged, but yeah, inline 6. More interestingly, Julian Chicot is also using his hazard lights to throw Alizai off, and these two had some psychological battles before. So with them, it isn't really something we haven't seen before.
That is very true. They've raced against each other many times, and they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. So a little bit of mind games comes into it. I think Ali enjoys doing a little bit of intimidation tactics.
Was in the GT4 race where we come back to the GT4s, as now Alizar is trying to make the move on Julian Chicot. Trying to go the long way around through Kesselchen, but you can see the BMW is just soldiering on, so it's hard to really get by on pure speed. Gap between Popa and Ikazu in the background, we've just seen them come through. A bit bigger, so not really a threat there for Ikazu. But I can see the AMG carrying a bit more speed through Mood Curve, but Alizar not trying to make a move out of it. I mean, it isn't necessarily an easy part of the track to make a move on.
Meanwhile, at the front of the race, Enrico Bräuninger stretching his lead to 6 seconds now. He made a lot of headway in Sector 2 and quite a bit in Sector 6 as well. It's difficult to tell with Julian Sicko and Ali Zahir racing each other, but he seems pretty strong in those sectors.
Yeah, really stretching his legs, and I mean, we know how much he struggled adapting to the new setups, to the changes, and of course he's been a very long time member of this community. But for complaining so much, he seems to have a lot of pace.
Yeah, he was suggesting he was sandbagging, but in a complainy way.
Maybe
oh no,
the
these
thing.
subs are so terrible.
Alizar still behind Julian Chicot here. It's always crazy to see two cars following each other so closely through the jump in Pflanzgarten and then now here through the jump at Sprunghügel. Is really daring to do.
The guy in the back car of the train really has to have a lot of trust in the driver ahead and know that you're fairly similar in your braking points, I suppose. Which, like I was saying, these guys have raced each other quite a lot, so I think there's a fair degree of trust between them.
Oh, and Alizar going onto the grass there. Kept the car under control, we've seen that and differently before, but yeah, that's losing him a lot of speed here to Julian Chicot. You can see the gap growing a tiny bit each time.
Yeah, not really the place you wanted to do that either. It was just coming onto the Dottinger Hole where he was probably planning to make a bit of a cheeky slipstream move. Although Ali seems to have made up a lot of the space by the end of the dotting, so it might be able to do a bit of a turn one maneuver.
Let's have a look.
Not quite able.
Oh, diving down the inside in a very late break move. Now on the outside.
BMW can get the power down, which it seems to be able to do.
But strong move. Well, good try there by Aliza. Yeah? The gap between Popeye and Ikazu has grown to about 3 seconds.
But with these two racing, Enrico Breuninger's first flying lap was an 8:12.2, whereas Sako and Zahir have both done 8:17s. So obviously the gap growing fairly wide there. Breuninger now 9 seconds clear at the front. These two holding each other up as they're fighting.
Going side by side into the Michael Schumacher is also something you don't see every day.
It's a choice, that's for sure.
You know, we have the UI back in
Yay.
one form.
And with these two fighting, Luciano Accarzo behind is slowly creeping a little bit closer as the fight continues.
Do you get distracted by hazard lights in front of you?
I don't think so. They're quite difficult to see, so I don't think I do too much. But it is one of those things where once I notice it, I will hyper focus on it.
And now going through to the Quiddelbacher here, one of the hotspots for getting it wrong under slipstream.
Carrying a little bit extra speed than you think.
Oh, well, he's hitting the apex perfectly though. Junchiko was dropping a bit more speed. And now we go side by side through the Schwedenkreuz. Will he hang it around the outside? That's the big question here. No, he decides to not do that. But a very brave attempt there. And out front with 11 seconds to spare, Enrico Breuninger. We're looking further down. Dominik Ladler, 11 seconds. Not 11 seconds. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Down from
Yeah, he was in the pits again. I don't know if he'd got a drive-through or something, but he has been back in the pits. So not a great return for Dominik Ladler so far.
It is only the first race of 5, so whatever happens here is not the title decider. And of course we also still have nearly 40 minutes on the clock. And with how Aliza and Julien Chicot, who have been of course some of the main rivals for Dominik Ladler in previous seasons, are fighting, anything's still on the table.
And these two have been having a nice dance for the last near enough 2 laps of the Nordschleife, but as you can see in the distance, Ikazo and Popper both getting very close now. It's going to become more than those two dancing soon.
Yeah, the Aston Martin in the background is getting a bit more visually present with the time. We are expecting 8 laps here. We're right now in lap 3.
I think on the Grand Prix circuit, Akaza was 2.8 seconds behind. He's now 1.9 seconds behind these two. So it's not like a rapid approach, but you can see as these two are messing around, he's getting a little bit closer.
And again, Alizar just trying to find a way by the BMW, but Julian Chikun knows the strengths of his car. He knows where to position himself, he knows where to block Alizar. It's just an overall very good job.
Ali's hitting the full beams here and flashing his lights. He's trying everything he can to just distract Julian Chikun just a little bit so we can get through.
Now the carousel, very crucial to drop in at the exact time. Low third gear usually.
Definitely something I'm really good at.
That sounds very ironic.
I don't think I've got the carousel right, even once.
Leon Becker was in that very close 4-car fight with the 3 Porsche and the AMG. Got out pretty much on the best position out of all of them, I'd argue. Up into P7. Eduardo Armengol in the BMW still holding strong in 6th. He can't quite go the pace of Theodor Popa, but he seems to also not be losing time to Leon Becker behind. So this could be a very strong P6 first showing here in this race.
Yeah, Leon Becker, his fastest lap right now is an 8:17. The 2 cars ahead have both done 19s. They seem to be kind of keeping up with the Zahir cars and Zahir C-code kind of train though, so I wonder if they were just having a bit too much fighting fun and slowed down a little bit. But Leon Becker could definitely be a contender for these kind of positions if he can get up there.
Meanwhile, Luciano Icaza is now closer to Alizar than Alizar is to Julian Chicot.
Yeah, then it's going to be the battle of the front engine monsters.
Indeed, it's all front engine car. We don't have the Mustang in there, so that one is missing, but other than that.
Yeah, considering the Porsche bias at the start of the race, the current leading Porsche is Becker back in 7th. It's all front engine cars up to there.
They're slightly gaining on Julian Chicot here with the slipstream. Was a bit too far away at the start of the Döttinger Höhe. But we've seen how strong he is, especially on the Grand Prix circuit of the track. And I'd argue it's a bit like with, I think it was Kimi Harpler and Tim Schroeder in Season 3. Where Kimi Harpler was stuck behind Tim Schroeder until he got by. And then he relatively quickly made a lot of meters on the AMG.
Yeah. Yeah, that rings a bell. Browninger just going through for his second flying lap. Only 6/10 slower than his first, so definitely within a fairly decent consistency range for him.
Aston Martin, though, is looking stronger and stronger with each lap.
Yeah, I think Icaza's kind of taken a little bit to get his eye in, but his last lap was his fastest lap with a 16.9. Couple of seconds faster than the pair ahead because they won't stop fighting.
Yeah, I mean...
A good last lap also by Bell, who did a 17 dead, way back in 9th place, but a really strong lap by him. There's only a couple of seconds behind Leon Becker.
Yeah, it looks a bit like Alizar is basically stuck behind Julian Chicot. He could go faster in certain areas, but he can't really get by. Of course, there's the difference in car, but Julian Chicot also, we've seen him so many times being strong in exactly the places where he needs to be strong and using that to his advantage.
Yeah, he seems to be performing well here, and he's doing a great job of keeping out of Zahir's way when he's strong. So yeah, like you said, he's playing his cards pretty well, I think, at the minute, and Zahir's going to have to worry about Ikazo not too in the distant future. And that'll maybe give Siko a chance to get a bit of breathing space.
Could also happen, of course, what we've seen previously, is that Ikazo is pushing Alizar past the BMW.
Dominic Ladler in the pit lane again. I'm assuming he's got a drive-through penalty. Or he just really likes the scenery in the pit lane.
Whatever it may be, it really isn't the start of the season that he would have hoped for.
Definitely not.
But the fight for the podium around here is really getting tight.
And Ladler pulling off the track and calling it a day.
That is a very unfortunate first race day here for Dominic Ladler. With that, not collecting any points here. But as you can see now, in front of Luciano Ikazo, is that Alizar basically sniffing the rear end of Julian Chico. Maybe a bit ironic that the BMW is called the sniffer, but yeah, it's really, in each sector you see different cars performing very well. Especially the run from Adenauer Forst up into Bergwerk seems to really favor the Mercedes, but then really comes the powerhouse of the BMW up the hill. Both the Aston Martin and AMG not the most powerful in the class. Oh, but Julian Chico high onto the curb, that will cost him some speed. Easy to lose the car as well, you can see unsettled again, coming out of Exmühle.
The M4 in RENNSPORT really is a bit of a beast as far as power to the back wheels is concerned. It's normally fairly sedate in other sims, and I think it's a bit surprising just how much of an absolute monster it can be.
Oh, and Alizar is spun round hard into the barrier. I think that may be a DNF here for Alizar, yeah? And indeed...
Yep. He's quit back to the box after that. It was a pretty massive bang, and I think it would have been a difficult job getting back to the start-finish from there and doing it safely. Well, that's given Ikazo a pretty clean run at Julian Sikor. And he's closing in pretty nicely.
Not exactly sure if there was contact between the car or if he lost it over a bump. We slightly misjudged the distance to Julian Chico, and that what's unsettled him. But yeah, so it reminds me of the first Nordschleife races we did back in 2024, I think it was, when we started with the Nordschleife League. No, that was with the Founders, Founders League. At the start of this year, we had the first Nordschleife League where we run damage for the first time. And
yeah,
what we've seen there were some very, I wouldn't say weird mistakes, but definitely something you wouldn't have expected by watching the people drive in, for example, the RENNSPORT Community League or anything like that. But yeah, it reminds me of that because we had Dominik Ladler, of course, unfortunate spin at the start, but then having the major of at Hoher Acht. It's something that I actually used to do in another platform before. So I do understand the mistake, but it's not something I've seen before from him.
No, it was definitely a strange one for Dominic Ladler. He's normally pretty consistent and pretty good at staying on the right part of the track. But a little mistake from him there. A couple of wheels on the grass for Ali Zahir, and it was just an absolute chaos spin and then a smash into the wall. That was bound to make a lot of damage. Luciano Akaza going side by side and squeezing his way past the car.
W looming in the mirrors, getting as close as possible during the braking zone. Now, can he make an attempt going into turn? I've seen it before from Ali Zahir against Julian Chicot.
Akaza getting very weavy.
Side by side, down into turn 1. W bit ahead in the first turn. Here's Martin in the second turn. It's a drag race now towards turn 3. But I think Ikazu has it. Has to defend to the inside line because Julian Chicot is trying to go the long way around and now down into the Ford curve. But it seems like the Argentinian has moved up into P2. Oh, and a bit of contact. Julian Chicot braking too late and hitting Luciano Ikazu, who's spun on and conveniently into the tiny bit of asphalt there is. Coming to the picture, it's Theodor Popa in the BMW. I mean, he would be delighted to have Ikazu right in front of him again, but Ikazu probably not really happy with the situation.
No, he was definitely lost out on that one for sure.
Gap between Leon Becker and Abel down to 2 seconds as well. Doesn't really change that quickly or that much, but it does change, and there's still 25 minutes left on the clock, so including this 4 laps. All the hard work.
Bell is slowly closing the gap up to Leon Becker, but it's taking a while. He's not exactly close. Obviously, Popper now just trying to catch a ride with Luciano Ocasio, see if he can close some of that gap up. 7 seconds after that unfortunate spin for him. Just a rundown of some of the last lap times. Enrico Bräuninger with an 8:13.6, Julian Sicko with an 8:16.9, Ikazo did an 8:14.6, Popper did an 8:20.7, Leon Becker did an 8:18.1, and Bell did a 17.7. So there's a fair spread of times and positions there. Definitely some opportunities for positions to be gained and lost. And 23 minutes left, like you said. So plenty of time to do it.
gap up front, 21 seconds between Enrico Bräuninger and Julian Schick. It really couldn't go any better for this man here today. He said his first win in RCL not that long ago, which he really had to fight for against this very BMW of Julian Schick. And this time he has seemingly a bit of an easier time. It wouldn't be his first win on the Nordschleife though.
No, although I can't remember which one is...
I think you know which one, you just don't know
before.
it was him.
Was it in the Praga?
Yes, it was in the Praga.
But yeah, he's Julian Schick having a pretty good race here. Although out on his own, which is a bit of a thing. He's got 22 seconds at the minute ahead of Julian Schick, so he's got a pretty big margin to play with. 22-second gap, 22 minutes of the race left. So he can definitely afford to slow down if he wants to.
Question is, does he really want to?
As he is.
Because if you slow down, you sometimes give up the rhythm you are in.
That is very true.
Gap between Bell and Becker 1 second, 1.1. Gap between Caso and Popa also 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, Caso just stretching that gap a little bit. Popa not able to quite hold on. But Ikazo has taken 2 seconds out of Julian Schick, so he's definitely back up to catching him up. And he seems to be closing in at a fairly decent rate right now.
Oh, Leon Becker has spun around, exiting the carousel. Slight bump into the wall, a bit of a damaged front end, but nothing too big. Gave P5 to a Bell though.
Bell 5.5 seconds behind Popper. And running pretty quick, so we'll see how he does for that from here on out.
Gap between Trigger and Julian Schick is still steadily growing though. It was just 21 seconds a few sectors ago, and that's up to 23. So yeah, contrary to what we've said before, he's definitely not taking it easy or slowing. He's staying in his rhythm. He's keeping up with the pace. What he needs to do. Gianni Caso also a bit quicker than Theodor Popa, so that's gone up to 1.7 seconds now through the fast downhill sector.
Also already got Julian Schick in his sights.
Well, the side is very far on the Döttinger Höhe.
It is very far on the Döttinger Höhe, to be fair, you are correct.
Slight issue here with the replay. We'll be back with footage in a second. But yeah, I mean, only I think 3 more laps to do. It's mostly about endurance at this point. Keeping the car under control, not doing any mistakes, and something that we've also seen in previous seasons a lot, that even though you seem to have it in the back, I remember Ali Zaya putting a car onto the roof as well.
Yeah, that did happen. So yeah, you to use the English saying you can't count your chickens before they're hatched. There's no point calling it a win until the checkered flag, I suppose.
Going into the next races that are upcoming, of course, this is GT3, people are used to that. A lot of drivers we have here today also have driven other cars around the Nordschleife, but especially with something like the BMW M2 and open setups, do you think there will be some mindset changes?
Potentially, yeah. Especially with it being open setups, people spending a lot more time in the M2 than they maybe used to do before. With so many of the races being M2 focused on the public lobby, so people maybe a bit more used to it than they were before, and know a few little tweaks they want to do to change that, and had to get it to drive how they want. Of course, it's the variation in the setup on the M2 isn't massive, so it's not like people are going to have like a huge advantage, but obviously if you're comfortable driving your car, then you're comfortable pushing it harder.
Yeah, of course. There's that certain bit of experience that you always need. There's also the obvious thing of just the car being very different to a GT3 and having to adapt to new braking points. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think the BMW M2 races have always been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the M2 races.
After that, of course, maybe I can put up the calendar for you so you can see it as well. That is not the right calendar, this is the calendar. Then the GT3X, we can expect a fewer amount of people, of course, for that race, but I always really liked how the cars drive, how fighting is in that car. It's a very different type of racing.
Yeah, very much so.
And yeah, after that GT4, we've talked about it before, and I think after this race it got a bit clearer what we meant by a bit chaotic, a bit different. So yeah,
it wasn't perhaps what we were expecting at the beginning of the race. It was, but it was a lot of fun, and it was great seeing the drivers getting a bit mental.
I mean, if you've watched the trailer to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League, you may have noticed a certain car also flipping onto the roof. That, of course, was a GT4. We had the insane mind tricks, which we were referring to earlier, between Julian and Chico, and I think it was Alizar, so quite similar to what we had today, with Chico waiting out of the small carousel to get the slipstream down to the Döttinger Höhe on the final attempt, and making it work as well. What else did we have? We had, I think every GT4 race had one big drift from Alizar.
Yeah, Ali was pretty good at drifting the GT4s around Nordschleife. I can confirm. I don't think he's too bad at drifting the M2s either.
That's very true. Although if I think about the M2 races we had, I'm thinking about the first one we did, I think, with Remco Major basically doing a last first challenge and passing people through Mood Kurve, which is certainly a very interesting spot to go side by side in with yeah, this type of car.
It's a brave move. It was definitely a brave move.
And I mean, at the end of the season, a 90-minute GT3 race So it's still different to what we have today, because Open Setup does give all the drivers very different opportunities with the different cars. So it will be certainly different to what we have here right now.
Yeah, it's a subtle difference, but it's definitely there. There's a bit more planning about what you're going to do. 90 minutes, definitely doable on a set of tyres, but if you're one of these people who likes to push hard, you might start to lose a bit of grip towards the end of the race.
So yeah, right now unfortunately it seems like we can't get footage back online. So possibly the stream has to end, unfortunately. We're very sorry for that. But yeah, it's looking very good for Enrico Bräuninger. If you want to follow the rest of the racing action, you can take a look at the app. In the app, if you go to contests, the first one you will see is, or the second one at the moment actually, is the RNL Season 4 Round 1. And if you then go into the splits, you can see who's currently leading. And it is Enrico Bräuninger starting the 7th lap right now in front of Julian Chico, Ikazo and Popa still. For more information and feedback, make sure to join the Discord. And I'd say next week we have RCL returning. This time, I know this calendar comes in handy, at Hockenheim. Again at 8 PM CET. Do you have any final words you want to share?
No, it was a great race. There was that wasn't the only split we had running as well. We had 4 splits today, so there was plenty of opportunities to race. If you want to take part, you could just have to go onto the servers and find the RNL in 2 weeks' time, and you can join. Same with the RCL next week at Hockenheim, if you fancy giving it a go in the GT3s. Hockenheim is a great GT3 track.
With all that said, thank you all for tuning in. We are looking forward to having more races around here. And until then, have a great time and goodbye.
Goodbye.